ayahuasca experience was, people when they drink ayahuasca, they expect seeing snakes and anaconda and mandalas and stuff like that. But my experience was all about Egypt. It was about pyramids. It was about
Huh.
Egyptian gods and eyes of Ra and like all of this stuff. And I didn't even know anything to even expect that or to even
Wow.
think it myself. So it was very, very surprising. And then ever since then, I've had many experiences that connect me to that sort of like Egyptian realm. I've never been to Egypt. I don't have any relatives there. So I'm not really in any way connected.
All right, greetings, humans. Welcome to the multiverse. We are here with a special guest, Mr. Sam Believ. We're going with today because that sounds better. It's Believ, though.
Believe.
Got it. Very, very cool. He is the CEO and founder of the highest-rated ayahuasca retreat in South America, and it's the La Guaira ayahuasca retreat, and we're going to hear all about that today. But we're also going to hear about Sam's journey into doing this. I wanted to start, Sam. First of all, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining, by the way.
Thank you, Dave and Megan. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I also want to shout out Mr. Adam Butler, my good friend. I love that guy so much. And so he's the one who made the connection. So Adam, if you're watching, thank you. And yeah, he grew up in Latvia, but then he ends up in Medellín, Colombia, running the highest rated ayahuasca retreat in the area, which I think is got to be a good story. So why don't we start with Latvia? So you were born in Latvia, and what was life like for you growing up in Latvia?
I was actually born in Soviet Union, and my first 3 years, from 1988 to 1991, I was a communist, and it was the best years of my life. I'm just kidding, because yeah, I was just sucking on my mom's tit, and I was a happy child.
Do you
started later.
Do you remember any of that? Do you remember any of that?
No. My first memories, I think, are when I was 4. But basically, I was born in Soviet Latvia and grew up there. And I was, Soviet Union was a place where religion was not allowed. So there was no religion, there was no spirituality. And as an engineer as well, I was a marine mechanical engineer. I worked on ships first, and then in platforms at sea. So I was a very sort of materialistic and very sort of non-spiritual person all the way till I came to Colombia, which is the land of magical realism, as you guys know. And through psychedelics, I kind of slowly discovered my spirituality. But if you'd asked me like 10 years ago what you'd be doing 10 years later, I would not be able to. Never in my life I would be able to predict that I'd be running an ayahuasca retreat. Not only I never had a business, I never studied to run a business. I didn't even speak Spanish. I barely spoke English. I was, I didn't even know where Colombia was on the map. And I thought, I've never heard about ayahuasca before. So it was quite a leap. And to be honest, like a chain of synchronicities and chance events, which led me to it, where I ended up with the retreat. And funny enough, the La Guaira started itself. I didn't really start it. And it's a story in itself. But when I was about 10 years ago, I was working offshore and gas. I was very successful. I made more money in a day than an average Latvian makes in a month. So I kind of quickly bought myself everything there's to buy by societal standards, where then the happiness is going to come. Happiness never came. I got frustrated. That brought me to traveling, and that brought me to Colombia. But when I sort of quit my job, or I was sort of in between, and I was trying to figure out what's the next thing for me to do. I was already settled here in Colombia, and I got really, really depressed because sort of my entire life I was running away from my trauma, from the issues. And when I finally settled here, and I was sort of semi-retired, living off passive income and savings, and I got really depressed because of lack of purpose and just everything catching up with me. And that brought me to ayahuasca. And I started, at first I saw ayahuasca as this tool for healing, strictly from a materialistic perspective, as in you take it improves your neuroplasticity and BDNF and resets your brain and depression goes away. And it helped me. But then eventually spirituality started seeping in through, and I started getting messages. And eventually, in one of the ceremonies in the jungle, ayahuasca just told me, "This is your path. This is your purpose." And then synchronicity started happening, and I ended up with the retreat. And I've been on this path now for about 6 years. And we've now given ayahuasca to close to 3,000 people. As you mentioned, yeah, we're the biggest ayahuasca retreat in Colombia and the best rated ayahuasca retreat in South America by Google reviews. But yeah, I tried to sort of engineer this perfect ayahuasca experience, as in make it reasonable, like not an ayahuasca retreat for hippies, but because like I was not a hippie, so I tried to find like a language and organize everything in such a way that it's accessible, affordable for normal people to come and heal. But yeah, I am a hippie now, and I am a very spiritual person. But that kind of came later.
Got it. You know, a personal question, and share as much as you'd like. But I can imagine being born in the Soviet Union. There's some generational trauma you mentioned that you had been avoiding. And could you lead us through, maybe as much as you are willing to share, like what your childhood was like, and then how you got into the engineering and all that stuff, and like what your lifestyle was like when you were, like you said, running away from your trauma?
Yeah. So yeah, it is a very interesting culture, because that territory is where, every time there's a war between Europe and Russia, that's where the tanks drive through. That's where the war actually happens. This sort of line between Europe and Russia and those sort of power centers. And so my ancestors, like if I look at my dad's mom, my grandmother, she was like dying of famine because communists came and killed her dad because he had some money and they took it away, and he tried to resist. And then, out of her 12 siblings, only 2 survived. 10 of her brothers died in
Wow.
Russian Revolution or Russo-Japanese War, or then World War I, World War II repressions. It was a very terrible place to be alive. Like 40, 50 million people died from 1900 to 1950. My Latvian, so I'm a bit of a mix, a mutt, because like all of my grandparents, they're all come from different nationalities of like post-Soviet Union. So my Latvian grandmother, her first memories are on a train going to Siberia, because they just took 100,000 Latvians, and you go to Siberia. It's like, it was a very traumatic place to be. So everyone has been orphaned or famined, or so for them mental health was not a thing. It's like,
Right.
you have 2 hands, you have 2 legs, like what are you complaining about? Like, okay, you have it great. You're not hungry, like your life is great. So trauma was like not looked at. And obviously the only medicine available was vodka, which is the medicine my dad used and my granddad used, and like this, it was the only thing they can lean on. So when I started my sort of journey and I started like asking questions, I'm just lucky that I had access to different things, like coaching and internet and therapy and ayahuasca and mushrooms and microdosing and all those things. Because once I started facing that pain, like as I described, when I got depressed, it was so debilitating. Like if I didn't find already at that time ayahuasca or coaching, like what would I do? Let's say if I was back in Latvia, I'd probably get some vodka and try to run away this way, and then end up alcoholic like my ancestors. So it's a very turbulent place to be alive as a human. So that's why emotions are not looked at, and they're largely repressed, especially in men. It's like, just like man up times 100, like don't complain, your life is good. And yeah, my dad's trauma was crazily 100 times more than mine, and his dad's was 100 times more than his. And obviously my children are going to get so much less now. But it's it's been a process. And but an interesting thing on a more sort of metaphysical direction is everyone in my family had ayahuasca except for my dad. And I brought my mom, my sister, my brother here. And when they one day engaged in the ceremony, even though I wasn't drinking the medicine, all of a sudden I felt lighter. I felt like all of a sudden I'm not the only one pushing that cart of this intergenerational luggage, because
Mm-hmm.
it is like somebody has to deal with it. It doesn't just disappear. It just
Right.
kind of sits there somewhere in some kind of cloud. At least that's kind of how I see it now. And yeah, so it's an interesting contrast going from Latvia to Colombia. It's like as opposite as it gets culturally, even
Mm-hmm.
weather-wise. And my wife is Colombian, and it's I've been learning on how to express my emotions more, feel more. Ayahuasca taught me how to cry. Like last time I cried was like 2 days ago, which I'm not ashamed of. And like my intention for my first 5 ceremonies were like I would like to learn how to feel again, because of that traumatic upbringing. What I did was I just tuned down my emotional dial to zero, so I couldn't feel good emotions, but I couldn't feel bad emotions. Unfortunately, you can't really choose, and I've been ever since restoring that ability to feel and sort of be human again.
Yeah, the idea of intergenerational trauma is something that I don't think people really think about. Like, there are families still suffering from trauma from the Civil War here in the U.S. It's supposedly it can take up to 8 generations to fully like kick it. And I like what you said about how somebody's got to deal with it somewhere along the line. In the family line, somebody's got to face the trauma, right? And so the tools that you mentioned, coaching and microdosing and things like that, that really resonates with me, because I forgot how to cry about a month into my combat tour in Iraq. Something terrible happened. I saw my one of my leadership just break down crying, and then something in me snapped, and I didn't cry for like 19 years or something like that. And what taught me how to cry was microdosing mushrooms and acupuncture at the same time.
Mm.
And I had a nice cry. It was like a cry and a laugh at the same time, doing acupuncture and mushrooms literally on Friday of last week. And I'm not ashamed to say that either. It was a healing experience for me, actually. I've been mad at my dad lately, and I saw my dad as like this old man, helpless old man, and a helpless baby at the same time, and it kind of something broke in me and made me laugh and cry at the same time. And so it's a tool for clearing that out,
Yeah, no, crying is great. Megan, when's the last time you cried? You women got it great. You cry so
Oh,
much.
I cry like a lot of the time. Depends on the month, depends on the time of the month, but no lack of tears for this girl. Don't have that problem.
Sometimes she cries during the show.
I think I cried like 3 times in her last interview. I was like,
Mm. Well, our goal is to make you cry sometime today during the recording, right?
won't be a problem.
We have at the retreat we have word circles where people share about their life and their experience. Like it's ayahuasca is great, but there's also the group container that makes a lot of magic happen. And we tell people like don't be ashamed of crying, because like the more people cry, the higher is basically the better is the ranking of this success of this word circle.
Okay.
I like it. I like it. And so you said you decided to travel. Where all did you go? So you were just done with materialistic lifestyle. You're feeling a lack of purpose, and you decided to travel. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I wish I could say like I'm done with materialistic lifestyle. That's not completely true. I still would like to have nice things, but only achieving them not through like soulless selling my time for money ways, but doing something that I like. That's the change. But Yeah, I traveled Southeast Asia and I traveled Europe, and eventually my goal was to go to do a 1 year sabbatical in South America. I always wanted to go to South America, but it's so far from Europe. So if you go, you have to go for a long time. And my plan was to travel for 1 year all around. And I took a year. I saved some money. I My plan was to learn Spanish, and I started in Colombia, and I did 1 month in Bogota, 1 month in Cali, 1 month in Medellin. Then I did 1 month in Quito, Peru, then Quito, Ecuador. Then 1 month in Lima, 1 month in Cusco, and then my money started running out, and I got offered a job. So I went back to Europe for 4 weeks. And when time came for me to go back, I realized that further away I went from Medellin, the less I liked it. So I just came back to Medellin, and then I came back again, and eventually I never left. It's such a wonderful area because of like perfect weather. And but yeah, that's how I came to Colombia. And it's an interesting story as well, because I remember 10 years ago I was at my doctor's appointment, and I told her like I get sick all the time, like I get sick every few months. And she said, like, she was very advanced for her time and in general.
Oh, good.
And she said, like, well, something in your life is not, your body doesn't like it and just like rejecting it. That's why it makes you sick all the time, to like show you the signal. And I was like, I just jokingly said, I'm going to leave my girlfriend. I'm going to move to Colombia. And I didn't even know Colombia that much. I didn't know why it came. And now here I am. But yeah, so materialistic part. Yeah. So did I answer your original question?
What if history isn't linear? What if civilizations rise and fall again and again? Discover the shocking truth in Deja Vu, Has Everything Already Been? By my friend Alexander Cheshkovich. Grab your copy now on Amazon. The link is in the description below. And subscribe to Dave's Multiverse on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble today so you don't miss a thing. You ended up in Colombia, and I've been to Colombia. I've been to Medellin. I ended up with like, I was running away from my own trauma, and how I was doing it was like extreme exercise. So like martial arts, lifting weights, running, whatever I could do. Sometimes I'd work out like 15 days in a row, like really hard with no time off. And I had actually traded drinking when I quit drinking for exercise. And my life was going great. I had a good job. I got married, like I attained all the things that like I never had when I was a kid, like a house. And if you look around me, like I got like every video game you could possibly, like I got like thousands of retro video games. And I was on this sort of like make the 12-year-old me happy by buying the things that he always wanted. Right. And then all of a sudden I just started experiencing, I remember what I was going to ask you. I started experiencing horrific hip pain and horrific back pain and stuff. This started about 5 years ago. And I'm glad you had a doctor that kind of understood, because I think it's the same thing. If you have something you're running away from or something you're not dealing with, it'll show up in your body, right? And it'll show up whether you get sick with an autoimmune disease, or chronic pain or whatever, right? And so that doctor, you're lucky to have her, I think.
Yeah, no, I've since then reached out to her and said like how great she was, and I'm going back to Latvia soon, so I even thought about paying her a visit and maybe like bringing her a cake or something. But it's there's two things you touched on. Like first is like replacing one addiction with another, and it's like people look at addiction as like, oh, I'm addicted to alcohol. No, it's not the substance, it's not a behavior. It's like what is underneath all of it that's causing it. What is that pain or repressed trauma that's trying to get out, or like a part of you, like a 12-year-old or a 5-year-old that's like screaming like, come on, let's look at it already, like the time has come, you're safe now, let's open that box. And the other thing is like the somatic expression of it, like trauma is stored in our body in different ways. And there's this entire modality now, somatic experiencing, where you shake it out of yourself and you remove it, because if you don't, it will eventually sort of condense in some kind of disease. And so the beauty of plant medicines is you, like when you drink ayahuasca, I don't know if you, I know Megan said she's interested, but I don't know if they've done it, but it's like it really makes you shake it out and move it out and purge it out, and it's a way for you to start tapping into it. In my case, like I was so far disconnected from any introspection or any feeling that, like I remember my wife saying like, okay, well, like, are you okay? No, I'm normal. I couldn't feel it. She could feel my emotions better than I did. So for me, I needed an intervention as strong as ayahuasca to start showing me and start releasing all that stuff. But yeah, like any weird disease, if you get like weird allergy to something you shouldn't be allergic to, or autoimmune stuff, there is something there underlying that, emotional, or like, all of, some people say all of the disease comes from your like stress or nervous system. Maybe not all. I mean, some can be an infection, but definitely a lot. And all of the autoimmune stuff and all of the weird, unexplainable stuff, probably look in deeper. Something subconscious is probably at works there. And we've had people come and drink ayahuasca and like their psoriasis gets better, and like no real explanation, but something got massaged out like on a subconscious level. And I don't really have an explanation exactly how it works, but it definitely, we miss something in our Western healing modalities. We miss the elements to work on that. And I think they're now starting to be introduced. So it's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. The United States government has been slowly like getting better at it. Canada's doing really good with it right now. And yeah, even just recently, I hate to say it, people always get mad every time you bring up this name, even if it's not in any context that's bad. But Trump signed an executive order because Joe Rogan told him at a UFC event that Ibogaine was saving veterans' lives. This happened 2 weeks ago at a UFC event. I watched them talk about it. I didn't know what they were talking about, but Trump walked in. They were in Miami, and that's when he usually goes. And he shook his hand, and Joe said something in his ear, and then he was like, yeah, let's make it happen. And then 2 weeks later, Joe Rogan is in the Oval Office while Trump is signing an executive order to make Ibogaine and other substances legal, or more access, I suppose, especially for veterans.
This is very huge. I was actually in the US when it happened. I was at the psychedelic conference in San Francisco, and it was all over my social media everywhere, because obviously I'm deep in the psychedelic space. You can't imagine how huge that is for the space. Like all of this research, all of this, like basically ayahuasca or ibogaine or any like mushrooms, it was Schedule 1, basically worse than heroin. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, people been drinking this medicine for 5,000 years, and you're gonna say it's like dangerous? Like, it was all political, and we can talk about how and why, but the reality is like this change is like unbelievably huge. I think like US, and every time I go to US, like tension is in the air. There's people are like stressed. It's like the air is electric. You guys need psychedelics. Like right now, that's probably what can really save the country, and it's very timely. And love or hate Trump, I don't have an opinion. I'm not an American. I do have an opinion, but I'm not gonna say it. But this is huge. This is very beneficial. And talking about like fighters and veterans, we've actually done a retreat 3 months ago for MMA fighters specifically. It was 12 fighters, bare knuckle boxers, UFC, different promotions.
That's so cool.
And together with science, like we did, we gave them the medicine and we studied them before and after. Like we had 2 scientific teams, and it's like, people with tons of trauma 1 week, like it's unbelievable, the results. And Ian McCall, with whom we organized it, he used to be like a featherweight championship contender.
Yeah, I know the dude.
He's done Iboga several times, and he said that ibogaine has healed his brain, and ayahuasca has healed his soul. So like right now, ayahuasca was sort of very popular, and now the ibogaine is having its sort of spotlight. But I think like all of those medicines have their place. Mushrooms are great, and like the fact that all of them are going to be legalizing now. And I was actually set to interview Rick Dublin, who is the founder of MAPS, who's like working on legalizing MDMA. And like exactly on that day, I had the green room and everything set up, and I got so sick I couldn't leave my hotel for like 3 days. But it's historical time. Like he's been fighting for 40 years to get MDMA legalized for treatment of PTSD. And it's I mean, first of all, the fact that it was illegal is criminal and terrible, but like it's unbelievably great what's happening now with all the possible legalization. I think like I've seen it firsthand. Like we get buses of really unhappy people come and buses of very happy people leave. It's unbelievable. It's the fastest intervention. I'm not saying like psychedelics is end all be all. You take psychedelics and then you do the work. They kind of jumpstart that journey. It's not the magic pill. It's not going to fix everything for you. But I've not found a faster intervention in my own life, and like I've never seen anything else that gives you results so fast.
Yeah, a lot of fighters, they come from, not all of them, I'm just speaking generally, you get into fighting because you're trying to escape like a tough background. It's the same thing with veterans. Not all veterans join the military because they're trying to escape poverty and stuff like that, but that's why I joined. And so you get into those things, and then you live this life of like being hard on your body and distracting yourself, and there's the alcohol's flowing, and things like that. And it just makes things worse. And you mentioned, the air here in the United States. And it's true in the sense that, mostly due to media polarization, but people walk out their front doors, assuming certain people are their enemy when they're their neighbor, or they're just somebody at the grocery store with a hat on, and they don't know anything about that person. I totally agree that this is historic times. And it's funny how that happened the way it happened, and Joe Rogan's like mostly liberal, and Trump even made a joke about it. He's like, he's a liberal, but he's a good guy, he's a stand-up guy. But that's like lines crossing, in order to make this happen. One of the biggest names in the podcast space, connecting with the president of the United States, at a UFC event. And that is what's going to hopefully lead to this, widespread legalization. Megan, I know that mushrooms are basically, you can get them anywhere in Canada. What about the other stuff? MDMA, ibogaine, do you know anything about those?
Well, mushrooms are currently gray market, which means like they're not legal and they're not illegal, which means there's like people popping up mushroom stores on the side of the road, and you can just go in and buy whatever you want. And that will change. Like that we had that with weed too. With cannabis, there was this like gray market period where you could just like sell it anywhere. It was fabulous. And then the government finally puts regulations, and you can still buy it legally, but there's control over it. Right now, it's just the Wild West. The other stuff, it's not hard to get, but it's not technically gray market. It's still like illegal, to my knowledge, at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to find.
Yeah. And the Schedule 1 thing is just ridiculous. I think it started in the 70s, basically to try to calm down people who were pushing back against the Vietnam War, something like that.
It was always political, because you cannot really make certain types of people illegal, but you can make their behaviors illegal, and then this way you can target them. For example, like as far as I understand, black people were smoking weed, so they made weed illegal, and now you can put them in prison. And Chinese people used opium, so they made it illegal. And I'm not the biggest expert, but in my own podcast, I had a few people that are very passionate about this topic. And same thing with psychedelics, because when people started in '60s, started taking psychedelics, and one of the first messages you get, whichever psychedelic you take, is like, we're all connected, and like killing another person is like cutting your own finger. It makes no sense. And obviously people didn't really want to fight wars anymore, and everyone was for peace. And it's like, you can't really make that illegal and tell them like, oh, you go to prison because you want peace. But you can make LSD illegal and everything else, because obviously, so I'm not for like, oh, let's everyone just trip out and abandon society. I kind of like society, and I like technology, and I like the fact that we can have both, but it needs to be, it was very abrupt, and older people got scared of the fact that younger people are going through this experience, which makes them different and uncontrollable. So they just banned it. And even though at the time that it was being banned, there was so much science already coming out of the potential of for the mental health. Because like, if you look at medicine, every space and every sphere of medicine has progressed so much, like surgery, physical health, but mental health has actually decreased. Like, it's the only space in which we not made any progress, and it's only gotten worse. And in my opinion, the missing ingredient is the psychedelics, because if you combine psychedelics with therapy, it's like very, very extremely potent. And instead we sort of went with another model, which is like, let's mask your symptoms, take this pill every day, and then unfortunately this pill has side effects, so you need to take another pill, and then that pill has another side effects, and you end up on 9 different medications, and you never really looked at the core issue that's causing all that trauma. But yeah, it's it was so surprising that it came from Trump, the sort of the legalization. Like, you would expect, someone like Obama or someone like that to legalize things like that. But little did you know. I mean, I like not to go there, but it's like, it's much more confusing than it seems on the surface, like U.S. political system and who actually runs the show. But
True story.
I am surprised that it is happening, but if it will happen, I think it can really soothe and fix that divide. Because like, you take 15 Israelis and 15 Palestinians and you give them ayahuasca. There was a guy that did this experiment, and they become friends. So I think like, we need people drinking ayahuasca or taking mushrooms or whatever, and like, obviously responsibly in a traditional, hopefully safe setting. But this could really, really heal the hearts and fix the divide, because we just need to remember, like, in the end of the day, we're all human. And it's like, yeah, how much more similar liberals and conservatives are than they're different. It's easy to forget that. While, as you say, like, the news are so, because of the algorithms, they're polarizing. That's why I just stopped watching news altogether.
Same. I worry about same. I worry about the older generations, because they don't, I don't, and this is generally speaking, I know a lot of totally awake older people, but they get targeted really bad by those algorithms. And it sucks. And from my experience, coming back from war, I was given, those medications, and they didn't help, they made me feel worse. And it's like the VA, the Veterans Affairs here in the US, it does a lot of good things, but the way they handle mental health is just, it's just so backwards. You meet with a psychiatrist who every 3 months, who talks to you for 15 minutes and like throws a bunch of pills at you, and then says, see you in 3 months. And then when you talk to them 3 months later, they're like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about this? How are you feeling about that? Okay, we'll give you more of this and less of that, and another one of these. And that was it, and there wasn't, much support. And I'm a mental health counselor by trade. And it's a frustrating job, in that when you're sitting there with someone who's dealing with, trauma, and they're angry or they're depressed or they're anxious or all three, and they can't see it. They can't see themselves outside of the trauma. It's hard to get anywhere with them. And the most, like, that's why I think like medicines like these, like you mentioned, it's not just, okay, you do ayahuasca and you're good. There's aftercare, and there's processing, and there's got to be, you still need to do therapy as well. And so I, that's one of the most important elements that you mentioned. When it comes to the veterans and the fighters that you did a retreat with, you mentioned like a scientific research at the same time. Could you tell us about that? Because that's really interesting to me. I think it's important to measure this stuff.
So the team with whom we did it, they're called Anaya Sciences, and then we have our own little sort of local team that it's called Neuro Enlightenment. And Luke, the founder, he's also a veteran, and he found ayahuasca, and then this neurofeedback technology that helped him. And so normally we offer people pre and post retreat QEEG brain maps so they can see their brain before and after, and we do that in collaboration with Luke. And then so we had his team doing his work, normal work, but then we had Anaya Sciences, and they have done a lot of work with Hero's Journey. How do you call it? Heroic Hearts.
Here, yeah, I know the organization.
They've done a lot of studies on TBI and PTSD, but basically they're a scientific team from UK, and they collect genetic samples before and after. They collect stool samples, and they collect pretty advanced QEEG readings, and then they launch studies, and they're funded by some organization in UK, and so they've done it on both veterans and fighters. So for now, the study they did here, it didn't come out yet. I think it's coming anytime now. But from their team, they're not allowed to show the data to the fighters. But the other team was allowed to show everything, because it's kind of it doesn't follow the same like ethics and same rigor, and you can see the differences. It's like very fast, specifically on TBI. But we've had, at least every month there's at least one or two veterans that come through. The results have been impressive. People stop drinking, or they, stop using drugs, or the depression goes away, PTSD symptoms decline. So it definitely works. And as you say, with ayahuasca or any psychedelics in general, it is important. Like, what do you do with this information? If you just drink ayahuasca and you get messages and it gives you homework and you do nothing about it, then it's not the same as if you get this big breakthrough experience and this reset, and then you go back to therapy, myself included. Like my healing journey is not completely over yet, because like there's a lot. Like some people, they come and they do one retreat and they're happily ever after. In my case, there's like a lot, and I've been dealing with it layer by layer. I have a therapist I work with, and I think together this is the powerful combination. Because if you just get a therapist and you just sit there 10 years over and over, going through the same trauma again and just re-traumatizing a person again, it's not really helpful. However, if you do the psychedelics first and you open up and you get more stuff come up, it's just more productive. And I've interviewed psychotherapists that work with MDMA specifically for PTSD, and they say like they don't even want to do therapy without MDMA anymore. It's just frustrating. It's like it's just inefficient. So like hopefully we'll get legal as well. It's an amazing tool. I've never tried it myself, but I've heard good things. So this psychedelic toolbox and then therapeutic toolbox, I think they're amazing together. It's like one is a drill and the other is a battery. So we put them together, we can do so many nice things, and hopefully start making a dent. Because like addiction crisis, fentanyl, opiate crisis, in the US alone, like 30% of people are either on depression or anxiety medication. So it's not a good statistic. Like, and of course, like we can work on a trauma and heal the symptoms, and the ibogaine and initiative by Trump is great, but then also hopefully the difference with psychedelics is that maybe they can teach us to be better people and live a better life. Because yeah, if you treat a veteran from PTSD using psychedelics and he's good again, then you send him back to war, like he's gonna come back traumatized again. So it's like, how about we also use those medicines to look into the way we live our life and maybe stop with the wars a little bit, or even this other stuff, because people get traumatized in their day-to-day life, because like as you say, in US it feels like a bit of a war zone. Everyone is like suspicious of each other, and it's not a great place for mental health.
Yeah, no, not at all. And those drugs don't even work. The barely beat the placebo, if at all. And there's big business in it too. That's another part of it is there's big business in these pharmaceutical companies selling these medications, and they don't measure your brain chemistry or anything before or after or anything like that. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing which noodle sticks. Like they'll be like, oh, the Paxil isn't working. Try this Lexapro. You know what I mean? And it's like that's so crazy to me. It really is. I'm curious because you mentioned it a couple times, Sam. We were talking about mental health and whatnot. TBI, traumatic brain injury, can eventually lead to CTE, and these things, I don't even know how to say the CTE, but they eventually lead. Well, the traumatic brain injuries eventually lead to CTE, and those traumatic brain injury can mirror the symptoms of like depression, anxiety, PTSD. Oftentimes you get both at the same time. Like for me, like it's like nothing happened to my like external physical body, but like more than once I was like blown up in a truck that was like and my head gets rattled around and stuff like that. And I didn't even know I had a traumatic brain injury from that, because this was like in 2005 or something, right? And just went to the clinic there in Iraq, and I'm sharing way more than I normally do about this shit, but I think it's important. You go to the clinic, you say you got a headache. I'm the clinic, to be honest, because I'm the medic, right? So I take some Tylenol and some Motrin, and the culture is, you get back out there, right? The guy, in fact, some of the guys who like had incidences like that and like couldn't go back out there, they got, marginalized. People are like, oh, so-and-so, he's just hanging around the base now, or we got to go out there and he's hanging around. So you didn't want to be that guy. So you'd keep going back out there, keep getting blown up or whatever. And, hopefully it's different now, but I doubt it. So I didn't realize there was a significant, I didn't realize ayahuasca and these medicines had a significant impact on TBI and CTE. What is the research there? It's positive?
Yeah, so I looked up CTE. It's a chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Yes.
Whatever that is, but it's like a bigger, worse version of it. So it's not definitive yet. Like the study hasn't come out yet. It's coming soon, like any day now. And I wish it was already here. But the other team that was doing sort of open brain maps, you could see the inflammation in the brain going down significantly. So ayahuasca specifically in this case, so it increases something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's basically your brain's ability to create new connections. Like this has been documented. It's science now. It's not a guess anymore. It increases neuroplasticity. It lowers the inflammation in the brain, and then so it is good for traumatic brain injury. Like, but of course, it would be nice if we had that study ready and like I could give you some numbers and percentages, but I can tell you stories of the people that've been here and
Yeah, please.
that I interviewed as well.
Give us some testimonials.
So for example, one of the guys in the team was Mark the Shark Irvin. He's a bare knuckle boxing champion, and he won a championship on 7 grams of mushrooms or something like that. Very interesting story.
Like he fought his fight on 7 grams of mushrooms?
Yeah.
Wow.
And won, which is surprising. But he's a big fan, and like obviously he's been working on himself and his own traumatic brain injury with psychedelics, and like he describes great improvement, like recovery so much faster. And the other guy, he was like a jiu-jitsu guy. All of them had like cauliflower ears, and they were like scary guys, but they were actually very, very lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people from whom you expect aggression the most, actually the least aggressive. And he was talking about like he had all the traumatic brain injury from fighting, but then on top of that, he got in a car accident. Like part of his brain is literally dead. They showed it on like a MRI or something like that. And he started working with microdoses and first microdoses of mushrooms, and he started using like hyperbaric, like a bit of everything. And his memory started improving. And then he was here for the retreat, and in 1 week he felt amazing improvement in like energy in his brain and stuff like that. It's not definitive, but obviously the pattern is very positive. But it's once again, it's really hard to know, like, are you depressed, or is it because you have CTE or TBI? It's like it all comes from your brain. So in the end of the day, it's all connected.
I'm making a connection as we speak. In my early 20s, I had the crap kicked out of me by a cop, beat totally into unconsciousness.
Damn.
And my mom attributes like that to being like a huge change. Look, here comes the tears. I knew we'd do it. I think that really affected like me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It doesn't. Just to clarify for the audience, CTE, if you don't know, is usually starts developing, fighters, football players, soccer players, actually even heading the soccer ball a bunch of times can lead to CTE, but it's usually caused by multiple traumas to your brain. And then eventually, by the time you get into your 40s and 50s, you start, exhibiting personality changes, memory loss, substance abuse, anger, aggression. And then it can lead to some very, horrific outcomes where people like commit murder or they kill themselves and stuff like that. And it's something that you can't actually see until that person dies and then you examine their brain. But the patterns within these sports and with military is quite, obvious. I can see it, and I've been watching MMA and boxing since I was a kid, and you can see now all these older fighters that I used to watch, suffering from this. So I really hope that ayahuasca and the research that comes back and stuff is positive, but it sounds like the testimonials are definitely, so because if it reduces inflammation in your brain, which is essentially what CTE is, and what traumatic brain injury causes, and it helps. What's that thing that it increases in your brain again? Something nootropic, something.
BDNF.
It increases that, and it also, like, from my experiences with mushrooms, I always end up seeing myself, from sort of the outside looking in, and I always end up like seeing the reason why I'm behaving the way I'm behaving, or the reason why I'm angry, and then seeing the person I'm angry with, in a different way, like I mentioned with my dad. It really gives me hope for the future. I wanted to start getting into the retreat a little bit. The first time I ever heard about ayahuasca was Graham Hancock talking about it on the Joe Rogan Experience. And it sounds a little like it sounds a bit scary, but the retreat you mentioned kind of started itself. Can you talk about that, and then we'll get into the retreat and how we do it safely, and like how we do it in a healing way, so that like it's not scary, you know?
So I first had my first ayahuasca experience like 6 years ago, and it was kind of mix of curiosity and like I kind of unconsciously was drawn to it because I knew something was off. Like I always kind of doubted that I'm not as happy as other people and something is a little off with me. So I kind of already had a couple experiences, but less from like all healing perspective and more of like just exploring kind of point of view. And when I got really depressed so COVID started and we moved to the countryside with my wife, and I was in that, she was pregnant with our first son, and I was like, I didn't know what I'm going to do with my life. I didn't want to go back to offshore oil and gas, but I didn't really know what to do. And I, even though I had like enough money to sort of live off frugally and I was sort of semi-retired, it got me really depressed, like lack of purpose. And I'm like, what am I here for? And so I started going to ayahuasca back for like healing. Like, okay, like this really helped me so far. Like, let me just go deep into it. And synchronicities happened where basically I lived in a finca, and finca is like a countryside house with a little bit of land. And I had 2 spare bedrooms with the outside entrances. So I would just rent them to people that want to come and live in the nature and work online. And it was supplementing my income. And one day a guy messages me and he's like, oh, I like your finca, because I was promoting it on Facebook. And he's like, I want to come and do an ayahuasca retreat there. And I'm like, sure, this is lovely, because I used to have to drive for 3 hours to just go and do a ceremony. So I was like, ayahuasca's coming into my house. This was so exciting. And around that time, I was turning every stone and asking everyone I know in the space to get some connection for someone in the jungle, because I wanted to go to the jungle. There was a strong calling. So this guy comes and he likes my space. And he's like, well, we're going to the jungle. We're going to come back after we come back, we can do a retreat together. And I'm like, you're going to the jungle? And he said, yes. And like, I said, can I come with you? So we went. So that's another synchronicity. 5 days later, I'm in the jungle where, by the way, first shaman with whom we drank is the shaman with whom we work now. So like people ask me like, how did you meet him? Well, it just happened. And then when we came back and in the jungle, I have this experience where ayahuasca just plainly tells me like, okay, this is your path now, and this is what you're supposed to do. And then we come back, we start organizing ceremonies. And this guy, he just like, instead of sort of paying me for my space, he just kind of uses me and like never really gives me my fair share. And like I bought everything, all the chairs and the buckets, and he would like not even give me enough wood, not even give me enough money to offset the cost of the firewood we would spend during the retreat. So I started looking elsewhere, and I ended up basically not working with him. And I was like, well, I need to do something, because I've created this little mini retreat and I still want to drink the medicine. So that's kind of how the retreat was started. It was like, let me like draw a business model and do this. It just kind of happened, and I just ended up with this retreat. And then I started connecting with other taitas or shamans, and started, organizing events and improving them, and people like them. And then I said like, well, what if instead of one night we do 2 nights and then offer people food? And what if we offer like sauna and ice bath? And what if we organize a bus? And started making things nicer, and it started growing. And eventually we needed a bigger space, so we moved here to this property where we are now. Eventually ended up buying it. It just kind of grew organically. There was a lot of work, and we went from like me doing everything myself and my wife and the shaman to now at the biggest our team was 49 people. Right now we had to downsize a little bit because of all this gas crisis and Venezuela. People are afraid to travel, so there's less people coming, unfortunately, because people don't need it. But yeah, we had to downsize the team a little bit. But that's kind of how it happened. and how we sort of gradually build the retreat. And like I've never really ran businesses before, and it is a business, even though it's a spiritual one, and it's a very complex business model because it's like you run three businesses at once. But that's a story. And you said you want to go talk about like what is the retreat and how it happens, or
Yeah, well, I was looking at the website, and there's different ones: 4-day, 11-day. There's an ayahuasca and integration retreat. I want to say the pricing is really reasonable. I was expecting it to be a lot a lot more, and the travel to Medellín is not that bad from the U.S. It's
yeah.
especially from the East Coast. It's not a far.
So I'd like to talk about that a little bit, and that's because like obviously we're very reputable, and we like our competition on average is about three times our price, and it's
Yeah.
like so a lot of people think that we're cheaper and it means we're worse, but it's actually not the case. And the reason we're more affordable is because I choose to be affordable. And that price that you see now is an increased price because like less people are coming, so I need to. I had to increase the price. It was even cheaper than that. But the reality is like ayahuasca really changed my life, and like people that go through here, I mean, every month there's at least 20 people tell me like this was the most impactful experience of my life, like this changed my life, and people really go ahead and change their life back home. So my philosophy is sort of how to lower the barrier of entry, and it's like how can I get more people to experience what I've experienced. And of course price is a big factor because if it is $7,000 for a week. I mean, only rich people can afford it, right?
Right.
For example, like Ibogaine is like 15,000, cheapest.
Yeah, there was a retreat I was looking at with Ibogaine that was in Mexico. That was specifically for veterans, and it was like, I think it was like $8,000, not even including travel, and it was a weekend. It was for 1 weekend, like Thursday to Tuesday or something. And Thursday and Tuesday were travel days, and I was like, I can't pay that. That's crazy.
I mean, it could still probably be worth it if you like compare that or like suicide, right? But at the same time, my philosophy is like, what language do you use? Like, is your language accessible to normal people? Like, will they look at your what you do and get freaked out and think like not belong? Because I don't want a retreat for people that already drink ayahuasca. I want a retreat for people who don't like, and they come and they experience it because it's 8 billion people that need it. So, and then also the location, right? So we're not in the jungle, and even like Americans think we're in the jungle because it looks like it. We're surrounded by nature. There's this huge mountain. It's super pretty, but we're actually more in the countryside and we're in the mountains. So it's like you don't get malaria, you don't get like anacondas or lions or scary stuff. So ayahuasca is already a scary experience, and it's something you said before that it feels like a scary experience. Like, oh, you're gonna go to the jungle and you're gonna puke, and it's portrayed
Yes.
as this dark, negative thing. So even though it's largely not, and we can talk about it as well, but people are already afraid, and it's already a hard thing to do. Travel to another country and go deep and look at your trauma, that's already hard. So how can we make it less hard as possible by like, maybe having a less strict diet, like having a more like having hot water and internet if people want to like message their family members. So it's like finding that balance. Like when the fighters came, they really appreciated the fact that we have a gym, for example. It's like you don't have to be just sort of yeah. And we recently finished building a sauna, which hopefully I'm going to use today. But yeah, so that's kind of my philosophy. How can I make it simpler? Because ayahuasca has a terrible reputation. It's like people only talk about the scariest, the most negative experiences they had. There's a bunch of like weird hippies that have no idea what they're doing, and everyone's a shaman after their second ceremony. Like, yeah, for
Right.
example, I mean, I have an indigenous shaman whose dad was a shaman and 7 generations, and they grow their own ayahuasca, and they're come from the jungle. So like trying to sort of like, as I'm telling you, like engineer as perfect as it gets of an ayahuasca experience, because like but yeah, we're going against the flow because there's so much weirdness in the space. Hopefully it's going to change as the space sort of matures. But yeah, that's another big topic, whether people want to come here or somewhere else, like making sure they choose the right kind of place to go to and like what to look at, I think is important to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like I said, Graham Hancock's talking about being in the middle of the jungle and doing ayahuasca and throat puking and having this like traumatic experience that he ended up growing from. But what you described sounds actually kind of nice. You know, you got a gym, you got a nice property, and you've got a bunch of facilitators there that know what they're doing. I imagine.
That speak English. Yeah.
Yeah. That speak English. Yeah. And I think that's really important, especially for, people who are, apprehensive about the experience. And so I'm glad you guys are trying to cultivate, a comfortable and affordable. I was like, when I pulled that up, I was like, it's freaking $745 for a 4-day for a 4-day retreat. I mean, that's incredible, man.
Yeah, the prices are probably gonna come up because yeah, we've been struggling quite a bit. Like we went from groups of 20, 25 people to like 10. People are just not traveling anymore. So yeah, probably the price is gonna come up, but I fight the price increase as much as I can, just as long as people are conscious of it. But yeah, even if we double the price, we'll still be half of the price of what the competition is charging. So yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate you appreciating my effort to keep the price low.
Well, I think it's important because otherwise, I mean, most people can't spend $6,000. I think I don't know what the exact statistic is, but somewhere around half of Americans, are living paycheck to paycheck. They would have to put $6,000 on a credit card, and they're probably paying off credit card bills already. So, I think that's important. Will you walk us through like a typical retreat, starting from getting on the bus to go there to getting on the bus to leave?
Yeah, so retreat starts sort of before the bus even. Normally, like people book a few months in advance, and then you go through a questionnaire form because we need to determine whether it's a good match for you. There are some medical conditions or specific medications you might need to wean off. So I would say about 5% of people, just can't do ayahuasca because of various health conditions. So we go through that.
Which medications?
So medications, mostly antidepressants. You gotta wean off them for about 4 weeks before the retreat starts.
Mm-hmm.
There's more like some blood pressure medication. Um, there's a list. It's on our website. You can sort of like, I don't have it from the top of my head, but basically we guide you through that. We determine whether you can come or cannot come or something needs to be changed. Once that's confirmed, you book your flights and then you start the preparation. We have a course where you start preparing. It's a pretty complete course, 3-hour video course where you basically we train you on how to get ready and also like what to expect, because a lot of it is, a lot of sort of bad trips that people describe comes from just lack of
Preparation.
knowing what to do, the lack of preparation. So when you're done with that, you on the
Can
day
I
of
ask
the
quick?
retreat.
Can I ask quick? In the preparation, is eating like healthy and stuff like that part of it?
Yeah, diet is a part of it. There's different approaches to diet. I think some are overly extremely difficult. Like our diet is simplified, and we've vetted it many times. It is safe, but it's not as extreme as people think. About a week before you need to start eating relatively clean. Avoid like fermented foods and overly ripe fruits and um, maybe junk food and too much salt and too much sugar. But it's not extreme. It's very doable. So once again, we guide you through that as well. When people on the day when you arrive, we pick you on a bus from Medellín, take you to the property. You come here, you settle in your shared room or in your private cabin. Then we take you to the medicine house, to the Maloka. There's a shaman is there and the team is there. There's a presentation. We play some ceremonial music and give you something nice to eat and drink. And as everyone gets cozy in the space, Fernando the shaman, he talks about the tradition and what's going to happen in the retreat. And then we do our first word circle. The group starts to get to know each other. Then basically from the moment of you arriving till the moment you drink the medicine, there's about 26 hours. And this time is for you to get like really settled in place, get to know your group. Because like if you're 100% comfortable with the group you're with, you can have a much better experience than if you just show up and here's your cup and you figure it out later. So we pay a very close attention to that. And also there's a couple workshops where, once again, we go through like navigating your psychedelic experience, how to go through it if it's too hard, like how to ground yourself, what to do, what not to do. So by the time people enter the ceremony, they're like really, really ready. By the way, the course, even if you want to do some other psychedelics, or maybe you want to go to another retreat, feel free to grab the course for free. It's an ayahuascacourse.com. I build a website for it, so come check it out. But basically, there's breakfast, there's lunch. On the ceremony day, there's only 2 meals because you have to fast for 6 hours before the ceremony. Then there's yoga at 3, and then 5 p.m. we meet up in the Maloka, and then 5:30 breathing exercises, meditation. So we get you in a nice mental space before the ceremony starts. Then Fernando comes, they blow some smoke and do some traditional stuff. He sings his Icaros, prepares the medicine. Then he starts calling people one by one to the altar, giving them their cup of the medicine, the different amounts depending on what he sees in you, and also like depending on your medical conditions. So we're very careful with the dose. Basically, another thing is I believe like in the space, most places just outright overdose people because they maybe don't know what they're doing. But what we do is like we gradually build your dose to the level at which you have this amazing breakthrough experience, but it's not too much, so you can still handle it and not get like psychedelic trauma. And basically, so yeah, you have a first cup, and then the music starts playing. There's this beautiful traditional medicine music that they play. Fernando, my shaman, he's also an amazing musician. He plays like 5 different instruments. Then there's a second cup 2 hours later. If you feel like you want to go a little deeper, you go for a second cup, and you can sit in your mattress or you can sit by the fire. We also have a bathroom with 8 bathrooms, which is a huge thing when it comes to ayahuasca, because when you drink ayahuasca, you purge. A lot of times you vomit or you have diarrhea, which is not a side effect. It's actually a crucial part of the experience. As we spoke about this somatic releasing, it's kind of how your body releases that stuff. And so, yeah, and the experience it's a pretty beautiful ceremonial experience, a beautiful space. You feel cared, you feel loved. And I'm not saying that it's not going to get difficult at times, but if you know how to go through it, it's very healing. So then rinse, repeat, generally for 3 ceremonies in a row, 3 night ceremonies from about 6 p.m. to about 1 a.m. And then there's a 1 day off, and then there's a day ceremony. And the day ceremony is when you drink ayahuasca in a day. And that's a sort of typical format, which is a 1-week retreat. And I, especially for those who are listening who are first timers, I highly, highly recommend you come for a 1-week retreat, because ayahuasca is not like other psychedelics where, if you take 3 grams of mushrooms, you know what's going to happen. With ayahuasca, sometimes it takes time to build, and you might not feel super deep from the first ceremony. You need to sort of build, and second or third ceremonies where you start feeling it. So if you just come for 1 ceremony or 2 ceremonies and you're like stressed, you will not allow yourself to relax enough to break through and connect with the medicine. So I highly recommend the 1-week format, and it's been sort of very powerful way of doing it. Every day after the ceremony, there's a word circle where we all meet and talk about what people have saw and try to sort of make sense of it. And it's a sort of first line of defense when it comes to integration, where people start like processing their feelings and their observations. We also give people integration journal. Before the ceremony, you can also talk to the shaman, talk about your experience, and maybe ask some questions. Yeah. What else is there? Yeah, there's yoga every day and meditation before every retreat. In the end, there's also, after the retreat is over, there's a cacao ceremony. Yeah, there's other activities.
Cool.
Yes, some days we go to the creek nearby, and there's some clay, like healing clay. We apply it on your skin and act a little wild and tribal for a little bit, and scream and throw some rocks.
That sounds like
Swim under the
fun.
waterfall.
Waterfall. That sounds like fun. And then you get on the bus to go back. And what is the like after recommendations?
So we once you leave, we actually have every week we have a group call where everyone can join, and we sort of talk about different topics and do breakout rooms where people keep sharing their experience. We also have an integration course, same as a preparation course. There's a course you go through which kind of guides you on what to do and what not to do and how to get the most out of your experience. And for those who want to go deeper, we also work with 5 different integration coaches. So you can sign up and work with them one-on-one, which I highly recommend, but people generally don't tend to want to do it. It's an interesting paradox where people don't really want to integrate. They just kind of want quick results. But I think after first time, you might not do it, then you learn, and then you actually start taking integration seriously. So yeah, those are the tools that we offer for people afterwards.
You mentioned something called psychedelic trauma. What exactly? I can probably guess, but what exactly is that?
So it's like trauma, but caused by psychedelics. I've had it myself. Like once I went to the jungle and I was given way too much medicine, and I locked myself in the bathroom with the metal door, and I was just like freaking out, and nobody could come and save me. And by the time I came out of the bathroom all scratched up and beaten up, there was nobody there. They just kind of left. So yeah, I had like flashbacks, and I was in a really weird sort of semi-psychotic space for a while, because yeah, it's like ayahuasca is amazing, right? And it's such a beautiful healing modality. But think about it as a tool, as a very powerful tool. Let's say it's a scalpel, right? And in the right hands, you can take a scalpel and remove someone's tumor, and you will be healed. But in the wrong hands, you can slit someone's throat. So it's a really powerful tool. If it's not used properly, it can cause damage. So because of that, like for example, all of our bathrooms have a lock that you can access from outside, and we can come and save you. So that's kind of how we learn and improve. But basically, yeah, you need to be in a very safe container, because if you're starting to sort of lose control and you don't feel safe, it's a really terrible place. It's like ayahuasca is like dismantling your brain, and you're trying to use all of your powers to get it back together. Ayahuasca is going to win. And then in that sort of like desire to pull it back, you sort of like, it's like stretching a muscle, but mentally. And yeah, it's not, in my case, it was temporary. I ended up recovering and like eventually finding better shamans and rebuilding my relationship with the medicine. But I can see how some people, if they have that experience once, they will be like, I'm never touching this thing ever again in my life. And they might miss out on an amazing lifetime of healing. And that's why, once again, we approach dosage, container, and everything like very carefully. Like it's better start small and build and get there safely than to like freak someone out and have to like then deal with the consequences, right? So the problem there is that people not always agree. They think they know better, and they want like, give me more, because they want this huge experience. But it's like, be careful what you wish for. So it seems like nice and funny, but trust me, there are places you don't want to go to, and you have to trust the facilitators. So, but yeah, not that we're gonna get persuaded and be like, oh, you want 3 cups instead of 1, here you go, because like yeah, for us, like basically your mental health and your physical health is the most important. But yeah, it's it's like a PTSD, but it's caused by psychedelics, and it's not pleasant because you get really shaken, and
Hmm.
you kind of like, it feels like you're tripping, but for a little longer after the ceremony ends. Like you might like catch yourself like sort of, it's like a psychotic state, and I don't recommend anyone go there.
Yeah, you mentioned that it opened a door for spirituality for you, and you know a lot of times people like they want to connect to spirituality through psychedelics, but I've grown as I get older. I was not a spiritual person. I'm not really now, kind of more than I was when I was younger. But people have told me that, like, you there's this, when it comes to spirituality, there's good, whatever you want to call it, entities, and bad entities you can contact. But in DMT, people always talk about entities and like talking to beings. Does that happen with ayahuasca?
Yeah, it does happen with ayahuasca because meaning the active ingredient in ayahuasca is DMT, one of them.
Uh,
So it's basically like a 4-5 hour DMT experience, but just different. It's because it's not just the DMT; it's also other harmalines and beta carbolines, but yes, when it comes to entities, like I've seen them, I spoke to them, I've seen different ones, I had messages, and some of them were surprisingly accurate. But it doesn't tend to be as common as with DMT. It's like it's not the focus. It's not even the vision is the focus. It's more about this inner dialogue. But honestly, ayahuasca experiences can be so varied. Like I've hung out with Egyptian gods and had like little DMT entities like palpating me with their little fingers and all kinds of things. But like I almost look at it as not as important as like the outcome of like what happens to you and what the healing
mhm.
is. So I see it less like shamans. Some shamans say it's like, oh, if you want to see visions, if you want to see pretty pictures, go to the cinema, right? Like ayahuasca is not about that. It's about something much deeper. But when it comes to spirituality, it's in my opinion, once again, it's not the main focus. Like I try to focus on healing and people overcoming their issues, but spirituality just comes through. So you don't look for it; it just seeps through, and it kind of, like, for example, you've heard like God is within you, right? You've heard it,
Mhm.
or like all love is all there is, or all of those
Mhm.
sort of platitudes and common phrases, and you can hear them and read them many times, but like through psychedelics you can actually understand them. Like you get to experience God being within you, or you get to experience that we're all connected, and it becomes all of a sudden starts to be have an actual meaning and feeling behind it. So in my case, like I was zero spiritual. I mean, I was an atheist, but I was like agnostic. I didn't really necessarily believe in any specific God, but through ayahuasca now I believe in God. Like I'm not going to tell you I don't I don't really apply to any specific religion, but I've had experiences with entities from different sort of religious thoughts, which is another interesting question. But I'm definitely spiritual. Like I don't really believe that we're just meat bags here to live and eat and poop and procreate and die, and then nothing happens. Now I kind of see us more as souls having a body, and another body that may or may not have a soul. So my
Mm.
worldview has changed a lot. I went from being very materialistic to now sort of asking many questions. But I must admit that my final worldview is not formed yet. So I think there can be conflicting things that I can believe in at the same time. but I'm honestly trying to figure out both from my own ayahuasca experiences and also reading and learning, and also hearing many different people coming from their experiences and firsthand telling me what they saw. But the pattern, the most sort of common pattern in what people see is that we are indeed souls having here playing the game of life to sort of learn or understand something, or entertain ourselves.
Very, very interesting. Would you mind telling would you mind telling me about the talking to Egyptian gods thing? Like, how much do you remember about that?
I mean, I remember it pretty well, but basically, um, it's really strange and hard to explain. But my first ayahuasca experience was, people when they drink ayahuasca, they expect seeing snakes and anaconda and mandalas and stuff like that. But my experience was all about Egypt. It was about pyramids. It was about
Huh.
Egyptian gods and eyes of Ra and like all of this stuff. And like I didn't even know anything to even expect that or to even
Wow.
think it myself. So it was very, very surprising. And then ever since then, I've had many experiences that connect me to that sort of like Egyptian realm. I've never been to Egypt. I don't have any relatives there, so I'm not really in any way connected. But I've actually had another Egyptian experience a few ceremonies ago, maybe a month ago or so. But ever since then, yeah, I've always had on and off like different visions from there. And one of them was we had there's the creek nearby. There was this big mudslide sort of avalanche, when kind of like it rains a lot and all the rocks are sliding by, and it was like a scary experience. It didn't really affect us directly, but it's like once in 100 years kind of event. So, and next ceremony after that, I saw this god with a crocodile head, and he was teaching me this spell for protection. And I'm like, okay, well, this is cool. And it was like, it's hard to explain. It's very psychedelic. It's ineffable. But in a nutshell, that's what it was. And then next day, I googled him, and apparently it was the Egyptian god called Sobek that Egyptians prayed to protect against the like elements, specifically rivers. And I'm like I didn't know that. Like
Wow.
how is it possible? And
Wow.
then yeah, I'm assuming he was like, yeah, like, here, I'm gonna help you with this river problem, right? So, and that really makes you question, right? Because I never really even knew a god like this existed. Like I saw the one with like the head of a bird or the head of a dog. And then the question there is because I've also like hung out with Christian angels, like in their sort of more monstrous form, like less pretty, less sort of like childish version. But if you look like a Bible accurate angels, or I saw like mythical creatures like dragons, and the question is like, how can all of those things present to you where they sort of contradict each other? And I came to this conclusion where, if you believe that everything, universe is mental and what we create is basically coming from our head, then in a way where a group of people decides to believe something, they sort of make it real. So somehow some Egyptians believe that there is this crocodile head god and he has a certain properties. And so they sort of installed it somewhere there in the cloud of collective unconscious. And somehow through my ayahuasca experience, I was able to access that. So that's kind of what I'm trying to understand, but I don't have any definitive answers. But that's only like 0.001% of the craziness you sort of see through ayahuasca. But once again, I love talking about it and I love exploring it. But in my case, it's like heal first, and then you can have as much as you can time exploring spirituality and like going deep and trying to understand the nature of the universe. But before we sort of go there, I think right now the overwhelming priority for us as a society is to just get better.
Yeah, I like the way you framed that. That it's not about that. It's not about what you see. It can be down the line as you start exploring your spirituality through these medicines, but you can't do that if you're like got layers of trauma that you need to work through first. I appreciate your guys' focus on that first. I just really wanted to hear about that. That sounded super interesting. It blows me away that you weren't like, because like for me, I've been like obsessed with ancient Egypt since I was like 8 or something, right? You weren't super into all that stuff, and all of a sudden you're connecting with this collective consciousness and collective spirituality that's been around for thousands of years. That blows me
I
away.
mean, I was curious about Egypt, like specifically about pyramids and how they build it, like this sort of
Sure.
more of a ancient architect, so like who built it and how, that kind of point of view. I watched like few documentaries about it, but I've never really like known anything about Egyptian mythology or like gods and stuff like that. So it was really strange, and even last time, like this experience recently, it was I can't really explain it. It's like Egyptian magic feel to it. It's like a specific like I can't explain it. There's no words for it, but it was like like somehow I'm connected to that space. I don't know, did I used to live there in my past life, or like I wish I'd known the answer, but it's fascinating, but really hard to sort of like understand. So I'm actually, and funny enough, in my first ever ayahuasca experience, I got the message, which was, if you go to Egypt, you will receive a gift. I don't know what gift, spiritual or physical, but I still haven't went. I didn't have time.
I
So
think you should. I think you should go in 2027 in June to Luxor when there's going to be a solar eclipse.
There. 7-minute solar eclipse.
Okay, let's go together then.
Let's do it. I'm in. I wanted to hear about your relationship, like with Fernando, and hear about Fernando a little bit. He sounds like a really fascinating guy. How did you find him? How did you guys meet? And was there like a trust building thing that had to happen between you guys in order to start working together, or how did that work?
So as I was telling, when I went to the jungle with this guy who came to see my property, the first shaman with whom we drank was Fernando. Then we drank with this dad and a couple other shamans, but we stayed connected. He was actually the first shaman whose WhatsApp number I took. It was another interesting fact, but we didn't start working with him immediately. First few years, I was working with different shamans, and his uncle. I worked with this uncle for almost a year, and then eventually our lines crossed again, and he came here, and he's been here with us now for 2.5 years. Yeah, he's a great guy. So he's indigenous. He comes from Inga tribe, which is a tribe that lives in between Colombia and Ecuador. There's maybe 5 or 10,000 of them. They've been working with ayahuasca traditionally for many, hundreds of thousands of years. And like I've been there, I've seen their farm in the jungle, where, because ayahuasca is, sometimes it's poached, but sometimes it's actually cultivated, and like they have their own land where they just grow it. So it's actually very sustainable. You can grow as much as you want. And so I said, like, that's where they grow it, and then they cook it. And his dad's also a shaman who's been here also a couple times, also a great guy. When it comes to shamans, it's very challenging, because they're sort of half here and half there, and most of them are very hard to work with. Like they're very like, no, I'm not gonna eat from this pan because of it has like weird energy, or they're very complicated. Or some of them, like, they don't want to work with women because they afraid of like spirit energy, or some of them like are notoriously bad at communication because they just don't like, they're not really easy to deal with. And Fernando has been like very great, because he kind of has this nice balance between, he's great in the ceremony, but he's also like a reasonable guy, and you can deal with him online, like in the real life. And people expect the shaman is like this bare feet old guy in the jungle, dirty and Like he's a modern guy. He drives a car and he has a WhatsApp and a phone, and he has kids that go to school. And yeah, he's from the jungle, but he doesn't like live there like full time. He has a house here near the retreat. And so, but at the same time, when he goes back to the ceremony, he then wears the traditional outfit and he reconnects to that, and then he becomes that shaman. So it's like, he's educated, he went to school, he knows how to write and stuff like that. So it's always funny how people get surprised that a shaman goes to gym, and sometimes he might even have a beer. Shamans are like normal people, like kind of in a way you can think about, like, I like to say a shaman is like a neurosurgeon for your soul. So it's like a surgeon for your soul. But it's like, imagine you have a neurosurgeon who is like super advanced and he went to university for 15 years. Same with shamans. Like it takes a really long time for them to get, like, he started drinking ayahuasca when he was 6 and he drank 2 ceremonies every week
Wow.
when he was 16. Yeah.
Whoa.
And
Two a
like,
week? 2 a week?
yeah, 2, 3 a week. And I'm not saying small amount, like they drink big amounts, they go deep. And when he was 16, only then he was like, okay, you can also start serving the medicine. And so yeah, it's like, but at the same time, they're normal people. They have a social life, and um, yeah, and so yeah, he has a great balance of what I want to see in a shaman, and he's a great musician also. He plays many instruments and sings really beautifully. So I'm really happy to have him, and he's also really happy to have us, because in general, being a shaman is a really hard work, because you have to travel everywhere and you have to like
Uh-huh.
live in uncomfortable conditions. But in this case, we created this place where people come here now, and he can have a comfortable life and see his kids every night. And honestly, shamans get paid really, really well. So I think he has a good. He's happy.
Cool. I'm looking forward to meeting him. I'm just looking at these prices going, damn. Um, can you, yeah, you mentioned you mentioned music a couple times. Will you speak on the role of music and sort of vibration as a part of the ceremony? Why is that so important?
Yeah. So I mean, there's different traditions, right? In Shipibo tradition, which is sort of the most popular one, they do ceremonies in the dark, and they use Icaros. They sing Icaros through the night, just like a one person singing melody. And in Colombian tradition, they have a fire and candlelight, and they use instrumental music plus singing. So closer to the end of a ceremony, it's like a band of like 5 people. There's flutes, there's pan flutes, small guitars, big guitars, drums, and everything. So the shaman sort of through music, they kind of maintain the harmony in the space, so to speak. And for me personally, music is very important, because when you're deep in the medicine, let's say you did go to the no man's land, and you're very deep, like it's a really difficult experience, and you're in a place where no language exists, and you're like there going and battling through your trauma and stuff like that. The music can be that tether that holds you. It kind of reminds you that you're safe and you're in this container where you're being taken care of. So it is, in my experience, it's very huge. Recently, when I've been drinking medicine, if I go to like a difficult deep place, I start, medicine sort of gave me this Icaro of my own, like this little melody that I sing to myself as I sort of like tap my chest, and I can sort of change the course of my experience and sort of get more into a nicer, more manageable space. Sort of like finding, it kind of helps you like guide you through this experience and like navigate it. So yeah, it's very beautiful music. Like it will become your favorite genre once you experience it.
Yeah, I just always heard that it was, a big part of it, and I do believe that we're vibrational beings at the core of
Mm.
the universe, and that's why music, like I was going to play basketball today, so I listened to a bunch of music that got me all hyped up, right? Or and so I use music as a tool all the time to alter my consciousness. So I feel like it just makes sense to me that it's important. But I'd be interested to have that experience and then have because there's not a whole lot of music I don't like. So I'm sure I will take that on as like one of my favorite types of music. So you've guided like 3,000 people through these ceremonies. I was wondering if you could share like maybe one or two powerful transformation stories, with keeping these people's anonymity in mind or whatever, like, but some of the ones that stand out to you.
Yeah, I mean, stories, countless stories of people coming out of curiosity and then going back home and like stopping drinking or stopping weed or stopping like unhealthy behavior just as a side effect, basically without even aiming to stop it. They just, something changed in them during the retreat and they processed some pain, and all of a sudden they're no longer drawn to that behavior, negative behavior. Like I've heard it many times. Sometimes people, they go back home and they, finally start doing things that they always wanted to do and never could start, like starting a business or writing a book or, getting in shape, and many of these people, no longer being depressed. A lot of times people come here when they're extremely suicidal, like they basically buy a one-way ticket and say like, if this doesn't work, they're gonna end it, which is very scary. But they don't really always disclose it on the questionnaire form, so there's not much we can do. But they end up like telling us afterwards and like going back home happily and sort of like confronting their life and recovering, and saying like, this saved my life. And that's a phrase I've heard at least 100 times. So things like that, everything in mostly mental health related issues, where people really get less anxious, more happy, less depressed, and less addicted. But sometimes also like physical health issues, like skin conditions or gut issues. Like in my case, I came to ayahuasca because of the depression, but then as a side effect, my gut issues went away. I used to like struggle with sort of IBS style symptoms, like irritable bowel, and it just all went away, which is a nice side effect of this.
I would say. That all sounds amazing. Something that popped in my head while you were talking about that was, what if like people like are in maybe a toxic relationship that they don't realize is toxic? Do you ever have people like, have that experience and then be like, oh shit, I got to get out of this relationship?
Yeah, it goes both ways. We've had people coming on the verge of the divorce and staying together because they work through it, but also sometimes people come and they realize it's not working. I like to say like the couples who drink together stay together. So if you do it together, you can sort of work things out. And but if you don't, then also generally, if only one person in the relationship is working on themselves, eventually it will sort of pull you away and you won't be able to understand each other anymore, or there will be frustration. So I recommend, for if you start, I'm not saying like one retreat, but if you start like doing it regularly, make sure you like bring your couple as well. It will make a relationship better. So yeah, it goes both ways, but we generally tell people like, if you saw it or felt it, it's, don't like go back and divorce your husband or wife straight away. Like,
Work
take it
through it.
slow and go through the process. We've had like cases like once this lady sent her husband here as an ultimatum. She said like, you go to Lawara for 45 days or we're going to get divorced. And he was here for 45 days. He
Wow.
stopped drinking and never drank since. And it's been like, he came back a year and a half later and they're doing great. So
Amazing.
which is not recommended, but also can work.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I was thinking like I would like to go, but then I was thinking like it would probably be good for my wife, but my wife for totally different reasons. Like
Yeah.
she's got totally different things than I do. But we have a pretty healthy relationship. But I was thinking to myself what earlier when you were talking that like I wasn't sure if that was a good idea. Like maybe if we went at the same time, it would get in the way or something. But I'm glad you clarified that for me without me asking, because
Here's what I recommend. First, you go by yourself, and then you send her by herself,
uh-huh.
and then eventually you go back together.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because like it would be best for you to work on your stuff, and like you can
Uh-huh.
also tell her, I've been here, it's lovely, it's so safe, you can come. Then she goes work through her stuff without like, because maybe she will be in a word circle and she wants to complain about you, like
Right. That's what
spouses
I was
regularly
thinking.
do. So she can sort of work on that, and then you come together, and then you work on a relationship. That's a perfect recipe, in my opinion.
That makes sense, because that's what I was thinking. Like, what if like stuff comes up about me related to my relationship that I wasn't expecting, and my my wife is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
also, if it's first time for both of you, you will be like so worried about each other, and like, oh my God, she's puking. Like, do I need to do something?
Right,
So like,
right.
it's better you come together where you already like experienced. But we've had people doing it the other way around, and it also works. So it's like if you like, sometimes it's like, oh, like I'm just here to accompany my wife, I'm not gonna drink, and then we convince them to like, yeah, just partake. You're here already, right? And then it ends up it's more for them than for her. So it's very interesting.
That makes
Interesting.
sense. That makes sense. I wanted to talk about your podcast a little bit. You've talked to some legends like Gabor Mate, Dennis McKenna. What are like and like you've talked about, your worldview and your perception as a sort of a fluid thing. You're still learning, and you're still learning about what you think about purpose and stuff like that. Did you have any like what were some takeaways from like talking to guys like that that are so I don't know. I don't
Yeah, I
know what.
mean, honestly, like that's how my worldview is formed. Like I take ideas from different people, and for example, like what I was talking about addiction, as in like you have this pain and the addiction is just a symptom. That's like Gabor Mate's thing. Like that's what he talks
Yeah,
about. And
yeah.
like Dennis McKenna, for example, he talks about like plants are messengers from the nature that tries to like teach us monkeys to wake up and stop destroying the world, right? It's like I pick those things up, or sort of like as I interview those people, massage my own understanding of this sort of view. And my podcast is Ayahuasca podcast, but it's not just about ayahuasca. It's about psychedelics at large, and also mental health. And I think like that's been a great way for me to learn more. And there's different perspective and I sort of like try them on, and that kind of creates a more complete view for myself. I honestly like I'm a big believer in podcasts as a tool for learning. Obviously, I learn a
Same.
lot as a host, but also people who listen. Like I have this thought that like if someone listens to 100 episodes of ayahuasca podcast, they like deserve a diploma in some kind of ayahuasca knowledge, because
I
it's like,
agree.
yeah, that's I've learned so much through podcasts about spirituality and about psychedelics and even about business, about the way I run my own business. So much of the knowledge comes from podcasts. It's like such a great tool that we have now, that would like, wherever you guys are, I'm here in Colombia, and we're chatting in a pretty high definition quality, and the thoughts are flowing, and somebody who would listen to that will probably learn a lot about ayahuasca and maybe change their perspective on it. And yeah, that's what I want to do. I just want ayahuasca changed my life, and there's this feeling that you get, like when you'll be here, there will be a moment you'll come to me. It's like, Sam, like I get what you're saying, but it's like the best way to describe it is like you feel connected or alive, like you're really like all of a sudden you're finally 100% here. And like once you experience that, you want everyone else to experience that. So we warn people against that, becoming an ayahuasca zealot. You're gonna tell all your friends, and eventually you'll like ruin the relationships over it because they will just not want to do it because they're not ready. But in my case, it really motivates me to sort of go out there and spread the word and hopefully get people to understand that, yes, you can do ayahuasca. You don't have to be a hippie. It's going to help you have a nice new perspective on your life. It's going to make you a better person, and it's going to heal you gradually. And here's how you do it. And it's very reasonable, and you don't need to buy a copper cup and crystals. And it's like, that's kind of what I'm trying to pass on. It's like reasonable. There's a reasonable way to engage with traditional psychedelics and get so much out of it without needing to change your life or your dress style or have dreads or stuff like that. Like, and I'm trying to be an example. It's like I'm still a normal guy. I still run a business, and I have kids, and I go to gym, and I eat nice food, and sometimes I even have a couple beers. It's like you don't have. It's like people are so afraid that ayahuasca is going to change them, and they're going to become one of those people from internet. So that's not the case, and you don't need to be a millionaire either to do it. And like I just believe that if this message is spread correctly and there's more people doing it properly, not with like a white guy with dreadlocks who drank ayahuasca 3 times and got it off the black market and he's a shaman now. But
now he's a shaman, yeah.
Doing it properly, if you do it properly and safely, I think it has a potential to change the world, make us a little less angry with each other, maybe make people a little more happy and loving and
connected.
Like I'm honestly, like every New Year's, the entire world gets drunk, and that's considered to be okay. Why can't we just like replace it with something else?
I love that idea.
Getting drunk, we're just all trip on mushrooms. It doesn't even have to be ayahuasca. Let's say
that's an amazing idea.
Yeah, and then like we all trip on the same day at the same time, and then ask yourself like, what is the world gonna look like?
Wow.
Next day? Is somebody gonna like cut you off on the highway or scream at you or like tell you to fuck off? I don't think so. I think we could. I think it's a pretty great idea to like review the way we see the world. And like as you start going deeper with the message, start going more on a spiritual side of it, you just kind of start seeing more and more of how this is just an illusion, right? We're only here for a little bit of time. It's like, and it would be nice if we can sort of take it a little more easy and just relax a little bit. Like, yeah, we're all gonna die one day anyway. It's like, why be so upset all the time, So yeah, psychedelics have so much because it's like ayahuasca is like a shotgun. It's like like physical health, mental health, spiritual health, like everything in between, memories, traumas, knowledge, understanding. It's like, you can have all of it, not all at once, but that's the beauty of this. People been tripping on it for thousands of years for a reason.
That's one of the best ideas I've ever heard, Sam. Seriously, because especially with the comparison to New Year's Eve and the whole world gets drunk. That should be your legacy, Sam. You should start that someday. Pick a day and just start spreading the word. And
I picked the day already, and
nice.
It's 5th of July because that's the day I started. That's the day I started my retreat, and I call it Ayahuasca Day. I still need to figure out how to make it like an international day of something. I don't know how. I've been looking into it, but hopefully I can figure it out. And there'll be a day where we all just drink ayahuasca. Maybe not 100%, but let's say 5% of people do it. I think there will still be enough of an impact.
Oh, that would have a huge impact on the global connective consciousness, I think. Like a massive.
Yeah, we're pretty far from it as of now because less than 0.5% of the people in the world even tried ayahuasca. With mushrooms, I think it's like 2-3% now, but we're going in the right direction. Look, even Trump is talking about psychedelics.
Ibogaine,
This
man.
guy needs it.
Yeah,
I
he does.
remember
He does.
I have this thing where I believe like when I was in the peak of my ayahuasca jealousy phase, I used to say like, you give me a problem and I'll tell you how to fix it with ayahuasca. And I think like the way to fix our political system is like, oh, you want to be a school teacher? Well, that's you're going to influence people. So that you have a quota of 20 ayahuasca ceremonies. You want to be a mayor? Well, that's a 50. Or you want to be a president? That's like 1,000 ceremonies.
I
Like
love this.
basically, then I would trust you to lead the government, because like you definitely seen shit and now you know how the world really works. Because the way we have it now is, places of power attract people that are looking for power, and those are not the best people.
Mm-mm.
And I think a bit of ayahuasca or maybe even other psychedelic could offset that a little bit.
Do you know
Yeah.
how many times
Sure.
you've tried it? I'm curious. How many ceremonies have you?
I mean, I stopped counting after 100, but probably like somewhere between 100 and 200.
Okay.
I
Wow.
even had this idea about like prisons, like if someone, people in prison, like they're just gonna become more hardened
Yeah.
criminals as they sit
Yeah.
there. Why don't we replace with like, okay, well, each month in prison in your sentence is like one ceremony, and you just get them through it, and they will be changed people, and then you just. I mean, I'm not sure if it's gonna work out, but I think the idea is legit. Maybe the formula needs to be changed, but like I don't think someone who will do 100 ceremonies is gonna go and like kill people. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're the president, you do 100 ceremonies, you'll have a much better understanding of the impact that the decisions you make have on like a drone strike, for example. Like if you
Yeah,
authorize a drone strike for whatever reason, whatever the military generals are telling you, we got to do this drone strike, or the military generals, maybe they have done a bunch of ayahuasca too, then you are acutely aware that even though you're going to blow up the bad guy that you're trying to get, you're going to get women and children too. But that's a big thing. But even just understanding your impact on that you in your behavior and how you treat people has an impact on the world, right? Like you mentioned, teachers, mayors, politicians. Joe Rogan says that all the time. He says politicians should do ayahuasca, and I agree. Man, maybe we're heading in that direction a little bit. Who knows?
yeah.
I wanted to ask a couple more things. First, coaching. So I coach basketball, and it's a really rewarding experience. I feel like sometimes I get more out of it than the kids do. I don't know. It's a very reciprocal experience. But when you mention coaching, you're talking about coaching people through like the ayahuasca experiences. And did you have a coach, or what kind of coaching are we talking about?
No, when I mention coaching, I mean in my own journey, that's kind of one of the things that helped me, because some people in psychedelic space, or they kind of like, oh no, you just take this thing and that's it. Like I don't believe in it. I think that you need to also do the work, or like what are you going to do with this material that comes up? Like the analogy I like to use is if you going to like an ayahuasca retreat is like going grocery shopping, right? You then come back home and you have this counter full of like nice fresh veggies and some meat and some like frozen foods, whatever. And then integration is like chopping them up and putting them in containers and putting them in the freezer
I
and the
like
fridge,
that.
and maybe cooking some. So it's like you need to process that, because if you just let it sit there, it kind of just gonna sort of in a way rot or disappear or be eaten by mice or your roommate. So it's like the idea is like how do you take, how do you gather, like how do you, it's like increasing the efficiency of your experience by 2-3 timefold. And what happens with this neuroplasticity that we described, like it opens up your brain to actually change quicker. So if you do therapy or coaching after, normally it's going to change you, but very slowly. But if you do it in between your psychedelic sessions, it's going to help you enhance your psychedelic sessions, and it's going to help you enhance your coaching. So it's like a match made in heaven in a way. And I started from coaching. I just hired a coach maybe 2 years ago, and it's been extremely helpful. And then about half a year ago, I started working with therapy as well. And I mean, I'm a little bit like spoiled in the way that I get access to that, but I do a couple ayahuasca ceremonies every month, because like there's a Maloka right behind me, like 100 meters, and I live at an ayahuasca retreat, and we do 10 ceremonies a month. So it's a luxury. And then I work with the therapist, and I work with the coach, and recently hired a business coach as well. So it's great to have that help, and sort of using the flexibility you get from psychedelics and all of the material and like information that you get, and then like sort of speeding up your growth process. Like when you talk about healing, it's not how people expect it to be. Yeah, you're gonna drink ayahuasca, you're gonna get an amazing ayahuasca afterglow, where for about 6 weeks you'll feel that you've been completely healed and all of your problems are completely gone. But eventually those old patterns in your brain will want to come back, and they'll slowly, gradually start to like, oh, like I haven't been angry for a long time, let's get angry a little bit, it felt so nice, that you will want to go back. So you need to, so the healing journey is not like this, it's like this and this and this and this, and the difference in a graph where you go like this, or if you go like this, just depends on the work that you do. So hopefully, I don't know how to describe my graph showing to people that are maybe not watching on the video, but it's like you can have one step, you can have 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or you can have 10 steps forward, 10 steps back, and it depends on the work you do in between. And even like ayahuasca, honestly, if you just come, and for me, if someone wants to come 2 times a month and just give me all their money, I'm like, this is great for business. But eventually, even ayahuasca is going to tell you, like, I gave you all this homework and you didn't do it. Like that happened to me in the early days when I was going too hard, and it was like, why are you back so soon? And it gave me a bad trip. It's like, it's a very strict sort of motherly spirit that's gonna show you how not to do it as well.
Got it. So you have a coach yourself and a therapist.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I coach people myself, and we
I
coach
wanted to ask
people
about
how
that.
to go through the experience. Like we have a head of facilitation. She guides people through it, and also obviously the courses and everything. And I naturally coach people all the time. If you want to be my friend, you have to expect to be coached by me. It's like, in my opinion, it's like you only hang out with people because you making them better or they making you better. If there's no like a flow of information, for me, it's not an exciting friendship. And I have a friend who's we're working on a documentary together. He's an Emmy-nominated documentary director, but like, I always tell him this new diet advice, or this new, I got him into drinking ayahuasca, or even like I helped him with his, dating life. It's like I coach him in every direction. And because he listened, like his life is so much greater. I think it's just natural for us to want to help other people. But also at the same time, you got to be careful where maybe some people don't want your coaching, and then you don't really want to. So yeah, I think like we should give advice to people who want to listen, especially if we know something. In my case, if I find something that works, I want everyone to know, and that's why I have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I go on podcasts. So I guess it's just natural. But yeah, there's also this other part where it's like, I don't know what to do with my life. Let me be a coach. And sort of this epidemics of coaching coaches on how to coach other coaches. I also don't necessarily agree with it. I think like you should first sort of like go through some hardships, and because the idea is like, let's say you've been fat and now you lost weight, then you can go and coach people on how to do it. Or let's say you've been depressed and now you're no longer depressed, well, go and help to coach people there. But I kind of don't like the fact where some people just want to just coach just coach for the sake of coaching without knowing what they're talking about. So hope I'm not offending any coaches that are listening.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, and it's rewarding both ways, like you said, and then you have a meaningful relationship, whether you're sharing and coaching someone else or they're coaching you. It's like I mentioned, it's reciprocal, right? I mean, it's rewarding for you to share information with people that you've learned, things that have helped you, and then it's also rewarding for them. And so I think that's probably an important part. One of the last things I wanted to ask about was, something that I deal with, and it's a condition called chronic pain. It's basically characterized as pain that lasts longer than 3 months, or beyond the normal time that like tissue healing, and it, it it can occur with or without a cause. Like you can hurt your back, and then you don't heal properly emotionally and physically, and then you next thing you know, 2 years later you're still in pain. Or you could just develop a chronic pain syndrome without even actually injuring yourself. Do people, because it's a complex neurological condition, okay? It's not just I have an injury, there's a tissue damage in my lower back or whatever, and then that's it, right? It's neurological. And so I was wondering if people ever come down there with chronic pain, and does it help with that? Have you ever seen anything like that?
We've had some people describe improvement in migraine, and also like there were some people with sort of fibromyalgia style symptoms, and it seemed to be helpful. Like, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to fix you for sure. I know that it's not going to make it worse, or maybe it will. Like, I would be actually curious to see how it would affect your condition.
I'd be curious to see too.
Or maybe it will show you like what's causing it, or maybe there's some underlying sort of mental thing that's causing it. So
I'm certain there is. I'm certain. That's why I microdose mushrooms and do acupuncture. But I think I need a bigger bigger blast.
yeah.
I've just always been afraid to like take the heroic dose. And that's why I think like retreats like you do is important, because and maybe you could speak to this a little bit. You already did kind of, but the importance of setting during these experiences and having the right people around you.
Yeah, I mean, certain setting and also skill. Like you have to be safe with people around you, because, for example, you can take same amount of same psychedelic in the same place, but with different people, and there will be a different outcome. You can take same amount of psychedelic with same people, but in a place where you don't feel safe, and you will have a different outcome. So like with psychedelics, it's kind of like everything is important. Every little small piece is important. So it's a very, like, I've done heroic doses of mushrooms, but with people that I trusted, and in a sort of natural setting with the fire. And I've had good experiences. I've also had bad experiences where, but I would always recommend people to have someone there to support you, at least, because it is a vulnerable state. But of course, if you can do it in a ceremonial setting where not only you're being physically supported, and you're in a space that's been created for it, so it's a safe space, but also at the same time you have this shamanic part that, like, your soul is also being protected, and you have this music, and you have this incense and smells and sounds, and everything is catered for this experience specifically. Like, we as Westerners, we always come in and we try to like reinvent the bicycle. Like, we have people have been working with tobacco for ages, and then we came in and we hybridized it and added some chemicals, made cigarettes, and now it gives people lung cancer, right? That probably wasn't the case before. There used to be cacao and people used it ceremonially, and now we came and mixed it with sugar and milk, and now it gives people diabetes. It's like, why do we always need to get in a existing tradition and want to change it instead of just being thankful that we're being shared this knowledge and just accepting it? Like, there's literally people that have been doing it for thousands of years. Like, why don't you trust the fact that they have figured it out by now? It's like they know to a very deep level what to do and how to do, and we can just join them and try to make it even better. Like in our case, okay, there's an indigenous ceremonial container, but instead of just a shaman and like one helper, we're gonna add a few more people that are trained facilitators, and then we're gonna sprinkle in a bit of a Western therapeutic approach with like group therapy sessions, and add in some neuroscience. Let's see how your brain looks before and after. So it's like, you don't need to change the core aspect of it. It's like if you have if you have like an Italian restaurant and then you add to it, I don't know, a Coca-Cola or something like that. It's like you can add stuff to it without needing to change the original recipe.
Yeah. I like the idea of like adding like sort of some Western concepts, especially for people coming from the United States or Canada or whatever. I think it blends, something they're familiar with what it is that you're doing there. The last thing I wanted to mention, and the reason I want to mention this is because I hope it helps draw people to your ayahuasca retreat and your experience. But the city of Medellín is very safe and beautiful and fun, and the people are great, and the food is amazing, and it's an incredible cultural experience. I was wondering if you could speak on that a little bit, because I think people could do the ceremony and also experience the city at the same time, and that'd be good for them too.
Yeah, not just Medellin. Colombia in general is an amazing country. Like, it's been, it had a rough past, and it has a really bad brand because Colombia's brand is basically cocaine and Pablo Escobar. But Medellin, there was Medellin cartel, and there was all the scary things you see on Netflix, and it used to be a murder capital of the world in the 80s, and now it's not even on the top 100 list. But guess who is in the top 100 list? 7 big cities in the US. So it's much safer now than it used to be. And I'm not saying it's like completely safe. No city is completely safe. Like, if you are in the wrong place in the wrong time, or if you're, you can probably find a way to get in trouble. But if you're just a normal person coming for tourism or for a retreat, like, once again, we've had close to 3,000 people now. I've never had anyone being kidnapped or killed or robbed. Or that people just come and they have their experience and they leave, including like single blonde looking ladies that walk in the street at night and they're still safe, which I probably don't recommend anywhere, but people here are very friendly, and it's much safer than people assume. And the culture here is very joyful and loving. Colombia has its problems, but like, unless you go to like guerrilla controlled territory, I mean, why would you? That's
right.
Like this, in this, we've been in this area for 5 years now. It's very safe and beautiful and close to the city. And some people are really afraid, so we do have a hospital nearby, and you can like almost get an Uber here, from the city. It's like it looks like you're in the middle of nowhere because it's surrounded by everything is green and trees and stuff like that, but in reality we're like super close. We even have fiber internet.
Sweet. I was there for 10 days or something. I went down to bioaccelerator for stem cell therapy, which was actually very helpful for me, and at the same time I really enjoyed the city. So I just wanted to say that. Sam, no, wait, first, Megan, do you have any comments, questions or last words for Sam?
I
I'm
just
just
wanted to say, if you can afford Bioaccelerator, you can afford Ibogaine as well.
Oh my God,
That stuff is expensive.
I credit carded the shit out of that. I just finished paying it off, but it was worth it. But this was several years ago. Nowadays, those types of medicine are much more accessible here in the U.S. as well. So yeah,
Good news.
yeah. Megan.
yeah, this is something I've been curious about for a really long time, and this feels like the universe being like, okay, now go do it. So I'm grateful for this chat with you today, because I have heard some horror stories about people having ceremonies with shamans and it being like
Shamans, yeah.
really terrible. So I feel like this is the call for me, and I'm about to search on my phone plane tickets and look at windows of when I can go as soon as we're done this. So thank you.
Historically, on average, one out of four hosts on podcasts on which I go as a guest comes as a guest. So
That's
very
actually
common.
that's actually good average. One
Yeah.
of my biggest takeaways today is the dang everyone in the world doing mushrooms on the same day or ayahuasca on the same day as like a
That would be
global.
lovely.
Well, man, what that would do to the global consciousness, collective consciousness, I think would be so healing, because we as a species have generational trauma that's been existing for couple 100,000 years, maybe. So and also it's so fascinating to me that you experienced contact with beings, gods, entities from different religions and different cultures, ancient cultures and stuff like that, because that makes a lot of sense to me. That if we believe something spiritually, and we put it out there into the universe and we create it, that it would be there for us under the right circumstances. Now, I know the whole point is healing. It's not talking to ancient Egyptian gods or whatever, but that makes a lot of sense to me, and that really blew my mind. So thank you for sharing that. So Sam Believ, CEO of Lawira Ayahuasca Retreat and host of the Ayahuasca podcast. Where can everyone find you real quick? And we'll put all the links down below as well.
So if you feel ready to try ayahuasca and at Lawira, go to ayahuascainColombia.com or lawira.com. Or if you Google ayahuasca in Colombia, you'll probably find us somewhere there on top. And if you're not ready and you want to educate yourself more about ayahuasca, then check out my podcast, Ayahuasca Podcast. And if you are somewhere in between and you're almost ready, then check out the course, ayahuascacourse.com. I'm very simple with my choices of domains.
It's ayahuascacourse.com.
Yes.
And it's free to everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's very cool.
And yeah, the price is cheap, but I think I have a coupon code I might give you.
Woo!
Just let me search to make sure it's correct.
Awesome.
I might have $100 off
for just us, or for the listeners too.
For the listeners too.
Woohoo! We need a multiverse session where it's like all our multiverse people there at the same time.
Yeah, use a coupon code, all caps, podcast 100.
Podcast 100.
That's gonna give you $100 off.
Love Amazing. It. We're gonna put that. We're gonna flash that up on the screen in post production. But Sam, it's very enlightening conversation. I really appreciate you stopping by the multiverse. We really love this space we've created, and we're really happy to have you now be a part of it. And nothing but light and love for you and your retreat and your life and your family. Thank you so much for joining the Multiverse, man.
Thank you so much for having me on. I believe it might have been one of the longest episodes I've ever done. I'm really looking forward to having you over here. I think you're gonna love it, and then I might interview you as well right after you have your experience, because
I love it.
This would be a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about the chronic pain and PTSD. I got all kinds of shit going on.
I love that,
so.
and we can explore, see how you feel, and do some brain science on you as well. See what's wrong there.
I like it.
I have a bio well. We could do scans of our like biofield before and after as well. That would be
nice.
Cool.
Bring it over. I would like to measure mine.
Yeah, let's do it.
If I still have any left.
And maybe we could talk about this sometime, but I'd love to, because I'm a veteran who also does mental health therapy with veterans. It would be interesting if we could talk about maybe after I have some experiences, getting involved in, doing a retreat just for veterans. Sometimes veterans do better when I've run a lot of retreats for veterans, not ayahuasca retreats, but retreats, healing retreats, adventure-based retreats. Veterans really open up when they're with other veterans who understand, and have experienced the same things or similar things that they have. And I think an all veteran retreat as an experiment would be a really good idea. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah. I've recently interviewed Jesse Gold, who's the founder of Heroic Hearts. Like he helps veterans to do the ayahuasca retreats, and we're looking into like maybe he'll include our retreat as well, because it is very affordable. But I've been trying to do a veteran only retreat for a long time now. It's not that easy to get a group large enough. But yeah, you come here, you love it, and then we'll talk about it and organize a group.
That sounds amazing. And
maybe Trump will pay for it.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think so. The VA really does a lot of like, if they can't do it like themselves, they'll pay like for community service. Like that's how I do my acupuncture. The VA pays for it, but I don't go to the VA. I go to a guy that the VA pays. So I think the future of this will be that. But I also think that it would be important that we have like, we can show scientifically and with testimonials that something like this works, and that's how we get like the VA to pay for something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, the science is being done, and we're in the right pace. I think a couple of years from now, it will be like, oh, you finished your deployment, here, go to Loira.
Love it. I think it's a great idea. Yeah. All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll be in touch.
Cheerios. Thank you, guys.
Yep. What's up, humans? If you're enjoying this content, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Megan and I are very grateful for all of your support, so thanks for joining the Multiverse.